that's been, you must have a lot of people.
Yeah, but it was a different vibe because
No, you're not.
I'm not a sex pest. But we're not reporting yet, right? Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Yes, I'll turn the volume up on the show. And then just pick up on that. I know the air conditioning is loud, so I'll turn the speakers up a little bit. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This is a great crowd. If you are comfortable and able, if you're sitting and there's empty seats around you, if you could kind of switch together and slide in a little bit, so some of the people who are standing on the edges have a place to sit down, that would be great. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Tonight we are delighted to welcome Will Leitch and his latest book, Lloyd McNeil's Last Ride. Will is in, yeah, please.
One more prompt would be great.
Will is in conversation tonight with his friend and sports writer, Bernie McNeil's. A couple notes before we begin. Tonight's event is only possible because of your support. When you shop at Left Bank Books, your money stays directly in our local economy, so it helps to keep our parks great, our libraries wonderful, everything else that we love about St. Louis keeps it going strong. It also, of course, supports us, allows us to get books in people's hands, and to support writers and put on events such as this. So thank you for shopping local tonight. If you're joining us from virtual audience land, wherever you may be, thank you so much for being here. You can participate in the Q&A at the end by leaving your question as a YouTube comment, so I'll keep an eye on that and I can read that to our guests for you. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to introduce our conversation partner tonight, and he is going to introduce our guest. So first up, Bernie McNeil is an American sports writer and sports radio personality. After 2025, he is a contributor for Sports Hub STL, KMOX, and Battle Church. A native of Baltimore, McNeil worked at Baltimore News American and the Dallas Morning News before moving to St. Louis in 1985, covered professional football for the St. Louis Post. He was the lead sports columnist at the Post-Dispatch from 1999 to 2015, and he hosted the morning show on 101 ESPN in St. Louis from 2015 to 2020. So here to tell us about the wonderful Will Leitch and our thank you all for joining us, and give a welcome to both of our audience.
This is the legendary Bernie.
I thought Will Leitch was like the Post-Dispatch correspondent while he was a student in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So he would tell me all this BS about how, he would come up there and it was such a big deal. That's Bernie. He said, I didn't even know how to talk to you. I was in awe of you. It's like I was telling someone earlier. He said, the roles have been reversed. I'm like the nobody, and this is one of the great writers in America, and I can't believe the work he puts out and the volume that he puts out, and it's all good. There's no pressure, and I mean that. I just, I'm just so grateful to be your friend, but also to just someone who's consumed your work, just grateful for all the great work. And you never change either. I'm going to say that's some prepared remarks. Now, Jill can probably tell us different. But
Jill, my sister is here and she will be silent.
Yeah. And, if you hang around, Brian Leitch's dad and Sally Leitch's mom, and Jill too, because you're wonderful. But you kind of get it why Will, this from small town Mattoon, sorry. And then, went out to seek his fortune and, worked in New York City and LA and all this. But you can see why, despite his success and all the very vaunted places that he writes for and works for, he's the same guy. He's a nice, humble guy. If you give him a compliment, he's just like, oh, no. So, to have the success for someone that's such a small town, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's Mayberry, but
Yeah. They very probably have the Starbucks.
you're still, a lot of you is still that boy from Mattoon and had a lot of dreams, and so just happy for his success. So I'm gonna listen. I'm not gonna review his career because he works for everybody basically. And the other thing is I'm 66, and I kind of forget things now, so I probably won't remember them all.
So it's Leitch.
So I'm just gonna make this really short because I just said some things off the cuff, but I just want to say this about this book, this novel. I read it and I read it really quickly, and then I went back and read it slowly to absorb it even more. And both times, I can't do a spoiler thing, but both times, when I was finally finished, I had to just sort of put myself back together. And I emailed Will and I just said, the book. And I said, I'm just now recovering, and I want to thank you for this precious gift of this book. It's just remarkable. And on another note, I can see why, I don't know how many studios are bidding on it for film rights, but it's a lot.
We can get into that.
It's a lot. Mr. Executive Producer.
Yes.
So
When I find out what an executive producer does, by the way, I'm going to produce so executive.
But like I mentioned that too. Will's the son of Brian and Sally Leitch, brother of Jill, and the husband of Alexa, father of William and Wynn, a distant cousin. You didn't know this, distant relative of Chief Illinois.
That's we are definitely both native.
And basically, he's the pal, literally, of every Cardinals fan in the world. And I'm just proud to be his friend and his partner on Seeing Red. So I have one more thing to say though, and I don't mean to be unpleasant. Listen, the Cardinals, they beat the heck out of the Cubs 2 nights in a row. Will Leitch, I can't wait. I'm getting there Wednesday. I'll be there Wednesday. Oh, this is awesome. You think they could sweep? And I'm like, So
Sorry.
So Will Leitch came, rollicking into town, and over the final 2 games, the Cardinals lost them both. They didn't score a damn run in 18 innings. So, Will,
You're welcome.
go home.
I'm going back. The other game that I saw this year, the other game was that Mets game. The other game, see Bush, was that Mets game right before they went on the winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
Where so I'm the cooler. I definitely. Well, thank you, Brady.
Pack your books and go.
I'm going. Get out of here tomorrow. Don't worry. And they don't play the Braves again, so I should be saying. But thank you for those very kind words, Bernie. And I was very honored that you read the book. And I don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole with the books up, because I know it's a lot. Y'all got pretty big this year. I'm not going to start talking about literary fiction too long. But one of the way this has all kind of come together is, it is fun for me. One of the things I loved about writing this book, those who know the book is called Lloyd McNeil's Last Ride. It is about a police officer who discovers that he has been diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is a brain tumor. It's something that's affected our family, and I think it's affected a lot of families. And he discovers he has 3 months to live, and realizes as his police pension will pay him, and he's divorced and has a 13-year-old son. And he learns that his police pension will pay about 20 times more for his son if he dies in the line of duty than if he dies from his cancer. So he keeps throwing himself into a bunch of insane situations to try to get killed, keeps failing, and becomes like a big civic hero. A lot of it is about him, hopefully that being kind of an amusing place to find oneself, but also about, the whole idea of the book came from, I have a 13-year-old, I have a now 13-year-old and 11-year-old. When I wrote this, William was 11 still. And Bishop is like a mix of all the best parts of both of them. I didn't put any of the bad parts in. Trust me, there's a lot that's so annoying sometimes. But I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with this, but I think that certainly this is kind of a scary, uncertain time for a lot of people, and I think for a lot of parents, I have a friend of mine that does not have any children and has a lot more free time than I do, and he finds himself sometimes very nihilist when everything's going on. He's like, what, burn it all down. This is what happens. This is the natural flow of and so on and so on. And on a certain level, there's a dark part of me that understands that. On the other hand, I'm 50 years. I will turn 50 in October, so I am a 30. But my children are just starting, and so I need the world to be okay. And so the idea of what would happen. I watched the Ken Burns Vietnam War, which is great if you ever get a chance to watch it. And I found myself watching it and realizing, thinking the whole time, when I was a kid, you don't think you're a dumb kid. I was watching it thinking, well, my parent, like my father, was like had a truck, like my father enlisted in the Air Force. He was there during all that. He got married in 1971, and this was still going on. And all the things I'm watching this documentary, and I'm thinking, what were my parents going through during this time? What were they have? Did they went through the Cuban Missile Crisis? What were they thinking? And I found myself thinking, what if I'm gone tomorrow? If a piano falls on my head tomorrow, what's the world? What do my kids think about what I thought about the world? What's it going to be like for them? And so this premise allowed me to kind of explore that in a way of like what it means to what kind of legacy you leave for your children, what you dealt with from your own parents. I feel like bad talking to my dad about this because this is the third straight book where I've had a book where there's a bad dad. I'm like, Dad, you're awesome. I swear, it's just more dramatically convenient to have bad dads. But I wouldn't say that Major McNeil is, but Lloyd is the son of a cop, son of the former chief of police of Oklahoma. And it's something he kind of wrestles with. He's kind of a cop before he realized he was going to be a cop, and kind of wrestling with that sort of idea of what it means to be a good cop, to be a public representative, to try to make the world better rather than worse. And so the idea of the book was to try to capture that while also hopefully with like a good hook and like a thing. And it turned out it became a movie thing. It's not a movie, it has become a movie thing. But all I will say about the movie is there's only so many things I can say because I'm an executive producer. And apparently that is like being like an ancient samurai where you're sworn to secrecy. I'm like a sensei, not sensei. What are they? Samurai. I don't know. The people that protected the feudal lords. And it has been a very wild experience to, if you ever get the opportunity to have an actual real life movie star praise you and sell you and try to persuade you to work with him on a Zoom when your spouse is in the next room listening, I encourage you to do that. At the end of it, they were just starting lying. I'm like, you know what? I think you got the dishes tonight. I think it's yours. And I was kind of glad the situation got over because by the end of it, I was like, oh, this is how people become assholes. This is how people become mortified, actually. And to have like people just like kiss your ass for so long and then you just gotta get back to normal life. So the movie is, they have Lionsgate has optioned it for a movie. The nice thing about that is it becomes, because how lucky my previous book was optioned by the woman named Gabrielle Caprathwaite, who did Blackfish, remember the Blackfish documentary about she now does fictional films, and she did a movie called ISS with Cambridge here recently, a movie called Our Friend with Dakota Johnson, Jason Segel, Casey Affleck. She does fiction films now, but she like optioned how lucky because someone got it to her for Christmas, and she's like, I'll write a screenplay and hopefully I'll finish it, and then hopefully we'll give it to a producer, and hopefully we'll sell it to a studio, and then it's going to take like years and years and years. The thing that's nice about this is like it's literally bought by a studio. They don't buy things not to make them. And so hopefully the process is when the process it starts going that like they're going to hire a screenwriter who will be their job. Well, that'd be me, by the way. I don't. If you've ever written a screenplay, it seems super hard.
Yeah, I think it would be.
It seems like super hard. I don't know. It's hard enough to make stuff, let alone say like, here's where the camera is. I have no idea.
Are you prepared for someone to like basically emasculate your work?
See, this is the thing, and I thought about this. I actually related this to Deadspin. For those that know, I used to do something called Deadspin, and then it turned into an AI slop that's like everything else on the internet has turned into, and with a gambling component. And so, but back in the day, back after I left Deadspin, Deadspin was really popular. Whenever Deadspin would do something really cool, people would go to me and they'd be like, "Oh man, you must be so." What you started is now doing this amazing thing. And when Deadspin did something that annoyed people, they'd be like, wow, that would have never happened if you'd have been running Deadspin. That's the strike zone. And so that's how I feel about the movie. If the movie happens and it's really good, they'll be like, wow, Will, that's so amazing. This incredible thing happened off of your book. And if it turns out to not be good, then they'll say, well, the book was so much better. Well, and that's the truth.
So how big of a star are we talking? Big?
A real movie star, like a real full-on. Well, he's not tall, but none of them are tall. But yeah, certainly it was a very kind of wild. Because I didn't know what was happening. Like I literally, it's the first time I've really gone through that process. And the thing that they kind of taught me from that was that like I was talking to my friend Kevin Wilson, who wrote a book that you should buy out here. It's actually on the front table with mine called Run for the Hills. He's a wonderful writer. He wrote a book called Nothing to See Here, which is the Jenna Bush. So it's a wonderful book. It's the best, right? It's so good. And so he wrote a book called The Family Thing, which was made into a movie with Jason Bateman and Nicole Kidman. And I was talking to him about it. And I said, so what's the process like? What do you go through? What happens? And he said, basically, you have to understand that, like, once people know that the option has happened, right now you have no control at all. But if the movie never happens, everyone will still act like it was your fault. So I'm accepting that. I'm being prepared for that. But yeah, it's a really wild experience to have to be kind of caught up in that maelstrom that it became like a bidding war sort of thing. War, particularly now, seems like maybe not the best word. We'll call it a bidding bombing that solved everything, and there's nothing else to worry about anymore. That's what we call it. So the point is that like I hopefully the book when I wrote the book, the idea of it was to be fun, fast, and I interviewed Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote the Fight Club, and I interviewed him one time, and he said anytime he writes a book, he feels like it's his job to keep the reader from looking at their phone or at the television or so on. It's his job to keep their attention as strongly as possible. So whenever people tell me, like at first I used to get upset when people would be like, "Oh, I read that so fast." I'm like, "Oh, it took me like a super long time to write it." I'm like, "You read that so fast." But now I think it's an ultimate compliment. It's that someone reads it really quickly because it's meant to be read quickly. It's meant to keep your attention. And it's meant to be fun. And so the book is done well enough that they're letting me do another one. So in September I'll be starting the new one. I'm going to write a romance. Actually, if you can believe that, I'm going to go full tilt just to upset Portland. It's going to be about a problematic, probably felonious tech ad. You know, I should move on before this big tape. But the point is that like I'm done. But my goal has always been with the books is it's funny that my editor at Herb Collins knows nothing about sports. He knows nothing about sports whatsoever. He has no idea what I write. When he bought the book, he's like, "Wait, you write sports too?" I'm like, yeah, he's actually primarily known for that. And to me, that was exactly what I wanted. That was exactly what I wanted. The idea. So I get to have these kind of two parallel things where I write about sports and talk to Bernie and do all of these things, and then something where I get to write novels. And there is a Cardinals reference in the book, by the way. There will always be a Cardinals reference. There will always be a Cardinals reference. There will always be a reference to Matthew, Illinois. There will always be a reference to all of those things. And this book, if you've read the last two, is in the same universe. So there's one character that's in How Lucky that shows up in The Time Has Come. There's more major character than this. He was originally a bad cop, not a bad cop, but a kind of incompetent cop in How Lucky. And I heard from some cops that read the book saying, we like the book, but we wish maybe the cops weren't so stupid. And so he became a slightly better cop in the next book. And in this book, he's a better cop. And so by the end, like eventually he's going to be Sherlock Holmes. That's my backup plan. It's just a series of mysteries. But it's connected to those books. But for me, one of the things that Bernie and I have always shared is we like to make stuff. Like to me, this is the point. It's making things. Like it's remarkable to me that like literally every single. And by the way, before we get too far out of it, this is such a great bookstore. Like it's difficult to like. I've been in a lot of independent bookstores, and they're all great in their own ways, and they're all on the good side of the force. But this in particular is a fantastic. So So anytime you ever get the opportunity to come here, please come here because it's such a good. I came here yesterday. I'm thinking Airbnb not far from here, and I came in here yesterday and like next time I was like, shoot, I just spent like $200 on books, and you just can't stop yourself. So much gets up here. But anyway, the point is that like my goal has always been to just keep writing these things until as long as I keep making. So I'm glad that they're letting me make another one, and eventually I'm going to do a sports book. I promise. Eventually I'm going to do a sports book, but for now I keep making this.
Just want to throw, because I told Will this a couple times in an email once I started reading it. I said, I didn't realize until just now that as much as I devour books, as much as I've read in my life, I'm like most people, even for my age. I mean, in other words, I'm not a 20-year-old, right?
Right.
Like I find myself, even though I like a book, it's a long book with the tremendously long chapters, I get distracted and I feel terrible. And I try to keep the phone away from it, but I find myself getting distracted.
Right.
Your book, this was glorious. In fact, if you haven't read it, I'll do one spoiler thing. It's not a major thing. He's got one chapter that consists of literally one sentence.
Yeah. That was for my sons.
I love that. But no, this thing just moves. It just glides effortlessly. And there's a lot of dialogue, and the dialogue is good. And it seems real. And when these conversations are taking place, they don't seem phony or inauthentic or forced or anything. Like Will found a great voice for the narrator of the book, who is, of course, the primary character of the book. And
The titular Lloyd McNeil.
yeah, and
Sorry.
and I really mean this. Like, I've read books and where the dialogue's good, but you're kind of like, I don't know if they talk like that or said that. Maybe I'm wrong, but with you, and maybe it's because I know you and I know your voice, and I just thought, all of these people are very believable. Even the way they talk seems real and natural and nothing forced and nothing contrived. It was really, really excellent in that way as well.
No, I don't. My Dirty Secrets. I don't have an MFA. I literally started writing novels when I was in my mid-40s. Like at a certain level, this has been a late in life career thing. It's very gratifying. This book was praised by Rachel Russo and like Stephen King's been very supportive. Kevin Wilson been very supportive, and like there's been a lot of like real writers like who have been like praising it, and that's very gratifying. But like I don't. You are so cute, by the way. But there's been a lot of writers who have been like it's been very gratifying. But like I don't like. It's weird because I don't feel like the way that I write the book is any different than what I write for Washington Post or what I write for the New York Times or what I write for MLB or write for anywhere else or write my newsletter. And I was like, it's the same thing. Like I don't think that like I care about writing and I care about words and I care about, but like I don't feel like maybe this is the journalist idea, maybe it's the old blogger idea, but I don't really feel like I have any access to any sort of major wisdom because I type for a living, and
maybe that's why your prose is so natural.
Hopefully it reads. Hopefully, like it's meant to. Like I do feel like the job. This is writing for years. The goal is to like keep people reading, and I have friends that I've been able to meet so many people that write. I would argue much more literary or much more, and I do that. I'm like, hopefully, like my book is classified as literary fiction, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Dewey Decimal System classifying. That makes you called me literary, and but like at a certain level, I don't think I just like people always want to know what genre the books are in, and it's always the first thing I tell someone I'm a writer, and I write books, and I'm always like, what genre? And I'm like, I don't know what to say, and like how like it was classified as a mystery, but. And that benefited us because it got forward and it fell in the mystery genre. But I don't think of it as a mystery in the way that I guess I think everything. Like if you don't know what happens in a book, it's a mystery. like I sort of, it feels weird for me that we have all of the billion things that you can possibly put in a book or put in a column or put in anything in the world, but the first thing we think is like, well, how do we sell this? What shelf does this go on? And it's always felt like a weird way to think of writing. And part of it's probably because I have a whole other career outside of writing novels. So I get to be a little bit more pure. I don't have to, like, I want to keep writing books, but like, I'm not like a publishing trade. what's everybody doing? Like the goal has been to be able to write every one of these every 2 years and then have it sell enough. You know who's a cool guy to quote? People love it when you quote Woody Allen. They love it. They love it. Very cool thing to do right now. But I grew up loving him. And the thing that Woody Allen, that he instilled in me, the only thing that he instilled in me was the idea of the work is the point. You make something, some of them may go big, some of them may not go big, some of them people will love, some of them might not love. The goal is just to keep making stuff. Someday, some of them will work, some won't. Some of them will click with people, some of them won't. But if you are true to yourself, don't be too expensive. That's another way. The only other way. Don't be too expensive. Don't just make it to be like you don't spend too much on me, and we'll all be fine. Like we're all I don't go in here saying I want $1 million. So we're doing this thing. There's a certain the thing I love about the book world is you get a certain amount of money for doing a book, and if you sell more than that, you get more money. But if you don't, it's fine. They'll just try again a couple times later. It's not I think people have this idea that books. I think a lot of times when people interact with books, it's because a celebrity is selling a memoir or something that they see it as a capitalist enterprise, and that is totally it's a side. It's a side hustle. It's a side thing that you do. And I've been fortunate to be able to continue to make them. But my goal is as long as I have HarperCollins. HarperCollins is a major publisher. They continue to let me make these books. None of them has become, I haven't reached Stephen King status yet, but they let me keep making them. And to me, that's how I feel. That's how I felt at Deadspin. That's how I feel at the Washington Post. That's how I feel in the New York Times. That's how I feel in the Magazine. That's how I feel in MLB. That's how I feel doing the show. You make stuff so you can make. And this is frankly one of the things I've always admired. Bernie works. Bernie works, and it is the thing that I admire about anyone, and it's definitely the thing I admire about you. I used to do a podcast with Elsie Granderson, who's a great writer for the LA Times, and one of the things we love about doing the podcast, this thing I love about with Bernie, is we talk. We know how to talk. I mean, you may disagree currently, but generally speaking, we know how to talk. But we're writers first. We're writers first, and we think of things as writers. We think about making things, and that to me is the fun part of being able to do this. So I just love writers. I love making these. I love the fact that Bernie, you sat down this morning and you wrote something that did not exist. It didn't exist. It was just it was nothing. It was a vacant space, and then you wrote it, and now it exists. Some people like it. Some people, foolish people, don't like it. Some will have a reaction. Some will agree. Some will disagree. But none of that. What matters is that people see it and they react, and it exists in the world. I am addicted to that. My hero growing up was Roger Ebert. Not Woody Allen. It was Roger Ebert, and he worked at the Daily Line. In addition to everything else, I watched the Cardinals lose 8-0 on a line. And he worked the Daily Line. He said the Daily Line he learned his 3 favorite words in English language by Roger Ebert. Now that sounds egotistical. That's not what it means. What it means is he got addicted to the idea of I made this thing and I put my name on it, and now it's there. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Maybe it means something to you. Maybe you hate it, but it exists in the world. And I again, it's one of the many things I love about you, Bernie, and is something that's shared by my favorite people who I admire creatively or journalistically. They make stuff. We only get to be here for so long. We need to be here for I went to a cardiologist the other day. I'm fine. But no, I went to a cardiologist the other day, and the guy said, "Hey, I heard you're a writer. I'm thinking of writing a book. What do you think? Should I not do it?" And I'm like, "You should do it. Why not? Make it. Go. If you have the idea to do it, just go do it. There's nothing." People always tell me, "I want to be a writer, but who cares what I am?" Yeah, they probably don't. Why should that stop you? Go make things. If you're worried about what the audience is listening to you, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. Yeah, make stuff. And to me, I'm addicted to making stuff, and I love people. who makes them. Bernie is so busy now that I sometimes feel a little guilty that he still has to do the podcast. Because he's so busy. And so and it's great because it's all good and it's all like, so I love, so for me, that's the thing that I admire. Again, like people that like embrace, like are willing to fail, are willing to make something that people might not like, that just to do it is, I'm addicted to it and I admire people who are addicted.
You know, my first newspaper job, I was a high school kid. It was a weekly paper. I'll be quick. It was a week. This is this.
I did not say that. So
This, this will tell you kind of like what Will's talking about. I just had to start somewhere, and I walked in, and I said, "Kid, listen, I'll work for free. I just want to write, and you know, you can cuss me out, tell me I'm terrible, but I'll keep coming back till I get better. I want to write. So maybe the high school guy, right? There was one news report. This is just blows me away even now, right? So it was me, like the 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, and the other reporter who was the news hound, and he's just tracking things down. Became a guy who, you know, worked, distinguished reporter for the Boston Globe, the Washington Post. He covered a couple presidents. He wrote, I love presidential histories, right? Whether I
used to.
Yeah, well, but I'm talking about it's sort of in my lifetime, right? And I was always like fascinated with Nixon, right? And John Aloysius Farrell, he wrote to me like the best Nixon bio, right? I was thinking we're in this little office, like in the, I don't know when was it? It was like probably 76 or 77. You know, and I become, you know, a guy that at least has had a career, but you know, I'm working with John Aloysius Farrell, who like became this legend, this star. You know, it just shows you, you know, where it starts from.
Yeah, I mean, this is how I feel, honestly. So with Burton, if I'm being entirely honest with you. Okay,
And
so
then Mark Bowden was another guy.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Black Hawk Down. I worked with him at the Baltimore News American.
Black Hawk Down is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so I worked with all these future stars, and it's like, but just you want to get started.
Yeah.
You know, going out with David Simon when I was helping Baltimore.
Oh wow. I don't think I know this story.
Baltimore crime reporters. I was a kid, late at night, PM paper. It's like, come on, kid. You know, there's a double homicide.
Are you serious? You covered a double homicide with David Simon?
I would go there and take notes. And
Bernie, like honestly,
and
like
David,
I'm drinking with Mike Shannon. Like what life?
David Simon worked for the same paper, but he liked me, and you know, I would tag along and I would ask him questions, and he was a character. And I would go to them at the bar afterwards and just listen to their stories. There's nothing better than newspaper people, especially that. They got a million stories, and they're all like solid gold, you know. So anyway,
Yeah, but I mean, isn't
you got to
Chat GPT better? I mean,
you got to start.
But okay, so I'm gonna get we'll be able to have some questions, so we should talk briefly about the Cardinals before, so we don't get rid of the book anymore. I literally just watched them do nothing for like 2 days. So I will say, do you, Bernie? I'm curious, Bernie. We've seen, like, for the record, this is what they look like on Sunday. We've seen like them like vanish like this, just have these little stretches where they just like. I mean, the thing that was frustrating, I think, about the last couple days, other than was that the offense never looked better. Like they not only did they like hit all those homers, they were just hitting the ball hard, like constantly. And my theory was that Brant Brown was happy to be playing against the Cubs. By the way, for those that don't know, by the way, Brant Brown is Cardinals hitting because Brant Brown is responsible for the greatest Ron Santo call in the history of baseball. Brant Brown was for the Cubs, and they were 2 outs, bases loaded. Cubs were down by 3, down by 2, and they had a fly ball to Brant Brown in left field, and he dropped it, and it cost him the game. And literally, the call is Ron Santo going, "Oh no." Oh no, for like a minute and a half. It is on YouTube. You can listen to it. It is, and until the couple of the World Series has been 16, I went to University of Illinois, so I had a lot of Cub fan friends. And that was like, I would like, hey, remember that time that Brant Brown dropped the ball? Oh no! I mean, the definitive Cubs fan call. So then the fact, so my theory was that like he had them dialed up for this series, and then they. So I'm like, do you like? Well, is it just that they made a left-handed starter? It's like, yeah.
No, I really mean this. I thought they were going to have a hard time with Boyd because he's having a great year, and Imanaga's a hell of a pitcher.
They needed to get him in the first.
Yeah,
and they did.
And I really thought like they're going to have a hard time because one thing that concerns me. Well, first of all, they're inconsistent. And that's okay. A lot of teams are. One thing that concerns me, especially with Herrera on the IL again, and with Jordan Walker, I hate to say it, just having a completely lost season.
Again,
They are vulnerable to really good lefties because they're right-handed hitters, especially to Herrera. It's kind of like, and so I think they're vulnerable against those guys. Not all left-handed pitchers, but the real good ones. Then again, you can say that about everyone. But I think the Cardinals are not. I think they're imbalanced because they don't have enough really good right-handed weapons. They just don't. And those guys will have their moments. Arenado will have his moments. Wynn will have his weeks, and a couple of those other guys. Contreras certainly, but. The lefties do a good job of punishing right-handed pitchers, but the right-handed hitters don't punish left-handed pitchers.
Right.
So, and that's one thing I'm maybe riff on a little bit tomorrow.
so where are you generally? Is there, because there was a stretch where I was like, holy, this is amazing. And that did not happen. And it's definitely got me back to, this is a wild card. Like, it's fine. Like, I've made my peace with it. And not really. I'm trying. And but certainly, I still like. We'll see how long Herrera is. I just feel like Herrera being out makes a lot of things not work.
Exactly, it gets more opportunities for people, but
Yeah.
they're taking a huge bat.
Right. And listen, Gorman was one. He almost won that game. Like that ball was shot, and it was a good catch by BC. Even it almost like one takeover took the ball. But like, this is a question I always kind of circle around on the podcast. Should I be disappointed? Like, on a certain level, I think early in the year, I was like, I just want this team to keep me interested through the summer. Just make it interesting. Keep me something. And so here's my. I'm gonna do a select. This is my select. I'm gonna throw it in. So I've been one of the earliest Deadspin commenters was actually Johnny. He was an early Deadspin commenter before Matt. He was literally a commenter before Matt. He was like a struggling. I did not know this until years later when he emailed me and said, "Hey, I used to read the site. His handle was like Bidwell 311 or something." And yeah, and so anyway, the point is, so I will occasionally talk to him about the Cardinals, and I would argue he is the ultimate casual Cardinals fan. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that he is kind of busy, but like checks in to see how the Cardinals are doing, and has but is not does not know that Barrero was ever on the team, let alone that they just got him. Is the best way to put it. And so, and I mentioned something. I was like, so excited, they're kind of going. And he said, yeah, but they're just setting us up to disappoint. And there was something that kind of bummed me out about the way that he said it. Because for me, I feel like this team should, this is all bonus time. I thought, after that Mets game that I saw in April, I was like, oh, we're going to lose 90 games, and everyone's going to get sold off in July, and this is going to be close. And now I feel like this team is fun enough that they have my interest, but I'm still going to be kind of bummed out if they fall apart in the next month. What's the right? I can't think. It's been a weird year in that way because 2 years ago you could just be pissed. Last year and then 3 years ago you could just be glorious. This is bonus happy time. And then last year was okay, now we know. Now we know that they clearly have to make big changes. This year I think we all kind of got ourselves comfortable with being okay, Gorman and Walker. It's the Gorman and Walker year. That's what we want. But now I feel like there's so many other fun things going on, and so I can't figure out whether to be disappointed. I'm going to be disappointed when they don't score for 18 freaking innings. But certainly I can't figure out if they go 86 and 76. That should be a totally positive thing. I don't know if it's going to feel that way.
I think it.
You think when it's over, yeah.
The only thing that wouldn't feel positive is they have a playoff spot in hand in September.
Yeah. They pull that.
And then they just kind of that would be really disappointing and justifiably so. Here's where I am with the Cardinals because believe it or not, I don't take my emotion out of it. I want the Cardinals to do well because it makes people happy. I live here. I love it here. I want people to be happy. I want action. I want entertainment. I want people going back downtown. I want all these things. The Cardinals winning helps all that, right? It brings everybody together. It's corny, but it's true. It's a shared interest. So I got to watch because I overreact at times myself. But here's what I've come to expect. If I'm going through their schedule. They go through these stretches where they're just outstanding, and then they go these stretches. It's like, well, what the hell happened there? You know, that's who they're going to be. But here's what I've learned. I think if I'm right. We'll find out. You ride out the storm, knowing that already the first 81 games, when they look horrible, and you're thinking, oh man, maybe they always find their way back. They get back to the surface and then some. They know how to lose. That sounds crazy. They know how to lose. Because with young players, like losing can break you. It can demoralize you. It just like that. They're the opposite of that. That's the thing that I personally love about this team. It's like I thought Bruce Bochy, the great manager of Texas Rangers, like when he was asked, like, you know, when the Cardinals played out there, they said, Boats, what do you make of these guys? They're hot. You know, and he this is a great compliment, even though it was like 5 words. He said, the Cardinals, they play ball. And most people read that and say, well, boy, couldn't he come up with something better? Now, I know what he meant. He's like, these guys play ball, man. You know, and they do. They play ball. So you can knock them down. You can make them look awful. You can shut them out for 2 days. They'll come fighting back, you know. So losing streaks for a team like that, you think would make them really fragile. It hasn't made this team fragile.
They don't seem fragile, and we've seen Cardinal fragile.
Right.
teams.
Oh,
We have definitely seen Cardinal fragile. teams. They don't seem like.
A lot of that is Marmol, and I know he's not the most, but he's great setting all of that in the clubhouse.
I think he's done a
I
really
think
good job
he
this
has.
year. I'm sorry, I really think he has.
You know,
And
if you look at their pitching staff, and I don't want to get into a long thing, but it's just how smart they run that pitching staff. And I think a lot of people say no, they don't. How in the hell can you have like the third or fourth best fielding independent ERA with that staff, and they don't strike people up? It's because they don't walk people. They don't give up home runs. They also, here I'm being the stat nerd, but you know when you can't strike people out, you know what you got to do? When the catcher says you got to throw it outside low, you know, that's your spot. They hit their spots. There's a fancy pants stat called location plus. You can see it on Fangraphs. The Cardinals, their pitchers are second best in the majors at hitting their spots. Like if the catcher wants a low and outside pitch or like low strike zone on the outside, they hit their spots.
that's a great stat. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just don't leave these meatballs.
Don't tell my bosses involved.
They don't. And they got a great defense, so they're happy to get ground balls. Sometimes the bad luck will turn against them, but no, they're really smart in their pitching approach. And I think Dusty Blake and Marmol deserve a lot of credit. Look at how they reorganized that bullpen on the fly. They've been one of the top bullpens in the majors, top 5 since April 24th, after that blow up in Atlanta. Where they decided. So
I was there.
no, the other thing, right? So I didn't mean to go on and on, but no, it's a word that we overuse, but they are a very resilient bunch. I would say they're a very spirited bunch that doesn't get down.
So we're supposed to go to Q&A, but I'm actually going to lead the Q&A because I actually have a question for you because you're here and I'm not. I watch all these games. I discovered, by the way, Oklahoma City is in the Cardinals blackout area. I was in Oklahoma City last week and I could not watch any Cardinals games.
That's crazy.
Freaking Manfred, man. I mean, anyway, the point is that like I'm not from here. I'm not from here. I'm not here now. And one of the more fascinating things to me, and I think with this every time I'm here, because I always joke that I lived in New York City for 13 years, but I never really understood New York until I left and then came back and saw how much it had changed in that time. I was able to see what was different. I feel that way sometimes when I go to Cardinals games. You can see, I've complained about this a little bit on the podcast about how it feels. I was talking to my friend Will, who's here, about how.
Is that Will?
That's Will, yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
That's your husband. Who's that? Jill, is that your husband?
Yeah.
Will, nice to
So
see you.
the night is young. So anyway, the point is that like you went to the team store. I complained about the team store a lot. There's just a lot. Like there's just like as someone that like literally just gives so much money to this team if I watch my own devices. And to go in there and not being able to find, like, I'm like, shit, there's better stuff at Baseballism and at the St. Louis store across the street than there is in here. And the jerseys are all old, they're not updating anything. So I think you see that in the stands. Now there were some good fans. The Cubs were in town. They were hot. I've seen some good fans last couple days. But and the time I was here before was the same night as the Blues playoff game. So I'm not the best test case. But certainly it seems to me that special thing is what can come back, but is not currently there. And I'm curious if someone wants to ask a question to start us off on questions and then answer my question for that. But it really feels it used to be when I lived in New York, I'd come back. I was just so happy to be at Busch. I just couldn't believe I was there. Just a rush of everything in my life that I was away from and missed, and I still have that sometimes coming back from Georgia. But like now, and maybe this is partly also getting older. I find myself thinking, oh man, like this is. I feel like sometimes I'm like a skating rink. Like, oh, you used to be a thing. Like, what happens? And there's a little vibe of that sometimes. That Cardinals thing from the stands, and this is not a criticism of the fans. This feels obviously a reflection of something happening that I've not been able to quite put my finger on. Now, if I talk to my uncles in Illinois, it's all because downtown St. Louis is so dangerous. But those guys are full
By
of
the way,
shit.
I like that little diatribe in Lloyd McNeil's last ride.
Oh yeah, it's about Tat City.
I
Yeah.
told my wife about it, said, you're gonna have to read this when you read the book. Make sure when you get to the part about Lloyd McNeil, like ranting and raving about people's perception of Atlanta and crime.
And towns.
Yeah.
It's just like
I said, oh, I think I'm familiar with what he's saying here. So
like, you know what? I don't want to go to your damn Applebee's either. Anyways, actually quite like it. But anyway, the point is that like I'm trying to figure out what it is. So now we'll do questions. So if you have an answer, then you don't have to have a question. But give me an answer, and then maybe we'll lead to other questions or whatever.
I think you have to search it out now. You have to search out those places that aren't the corporate feeling like.
So is it feel the whole organization feels much more corporate than it once is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think his jersey explains some of it as well.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I grew up here. I brought her back or something. But we lived in
She seems happy.
we lived in Los Angeles for like 14 years.
Yeah.
And experiences there are different, in stadiums and things like that. But when we came home for me and we went to a City SC game, it felt Busch 15, 20 years ago. And then we went to a Cardinal game. And it's like the food is shit.
Yeah.
There's someone that the store. There's something. Yeah, people are just not putting in the work or the effort.
Yeah.
They don't want it to be extra.
they got
want it to
Craig
be
Potato
special.
jerseys on.
Yeah, and it's just sad. It still feels right. The sounds are right. And I'm sitting and talking with my dad or my wife or whatever in the game and enjoying that part. That's there. That's still there. The fabric.
Let me throw a question up there. Do you think it's generationally? I think that's a big factor. Not to sound cold, but I mean, people did all these stuff, going to games, they pass on, whatever. And have the Cardinals done enough to like just get newer generations like really into it? And it's kind of tough because they're not winning at this level where they were. And by the way, it's unrealistic that they would have been able to keep that up for maybe much longer.
Yeah, but I think it goes beyond just winning, right? Like I think obviously it's a factor. Yes, sir.
So I've been to a couple games this year. Every time I go, they win.
Sorry.
Sure.
Couldn't they like go all the way around the bases?
And it's electric. And right in the bleachers, it takes a while for the fans to get in. But once they get going and they start coming back, it's electric at the ballpark. And I just have enjoyed every time I go out there. And it's not about, hey, ball game experience, whatever, they got a DJ. But no, the game is good, the play is good, and people just have maybe forgot. It's 2023, but when they're playing, it's electric and it's not, you didn't see it.
Yeah, I know that. Like,
Today.
yeah.
And it's, they just got just win, just play.
So
well,
do you think it's
win.
as simple as
It's
win?
that simple. It just, and people
See,
will go back.
I'm curious, yeah, because I agree that people will come back. But I also agree with the idea that, like, I've been to it at St. Louis. I'm an Atlanta United ticket holder. I go to Knicks games. I'm a Knicks fan. Go Knicks. We're gonna hire someone eventually. But like there are things. My work. So here's my. I went to the Cardinals. I was walking around the Cardinals Hall of Fame minute, and I saw something very ominous. I saw a painting when I walked in there by Bill DeWitt III. Yeah, he gifted a painting that he personally did of like green seats. It was fine. It was fine. I feel like if it was maybe by someone that wasn't the son of the owner of the team, it might not have made the team still. The Cardinals Hall of Fame. And I don't mean to put it specifically on him, but I don't mean to know him, and I know you've interacted with him, but like there is a certain sort of. Someone was pointing out today of when I was at the game where Pools and Williams last game. Remember when they gave out all the awards? They gave out all the little gifts, and then the whole thing was awesome. And that was back when McLaughlin was still like some of the last thing McLaughlin did. He did a really good job of it, and it was like really good. And they had all of this stuff, and they gave out all of these things, and then the thing ground to a freaking halt. Because DeWitt III had some golf clubs that through like a local partner that they had worked with that they were giving to Yachty and Albert, who obviously don't play golf. And it just like and he was very awkward. It felt like, yeah, I don't want to do a which Trump son did he seem the most like at that moment, but like there was a certain I don't mean specifically for him, I swear, but like there was a certain I don't know, people aren't hungry inside. Like the players look hungry. They did do one thing better. They had a video that they played before the game yesterday that I had not seen. That would have had Victor Scott talking about we're hangry. Was it hangry? Younger. God, we're young and hungry. The younger bird. And like that's a start. Like that's a start. Like that is like in the right direction of like young, fun players. Like I love watching this team, even when they don't score at all for 2 days.
That's why they brought people in from the outside.
Yeah.
Bill Jr. and Bill III. And I think overall, they've been incredible for the franchise, but they got outdated, they got stale. Not just with the baseball part, but also keeping Busch Stadium in the moment as far as new generation vibe, what people like. Maybe, it's different from like 15 years ago, what they expect, what they want. There's got to be more of a fun quotient. There's got to be more of just kind of like you're with the times quotient. And those guys were great old school, shepherds of a franchise. But your fan base has gotten younger, or a lot of your great fans have gotten older. They didn't stay with the times, and that actually applies to the ballpark too. And I think they finally realized that.
The thing is that seems hungry.
Yeah.
They're hungry and they're trying to get a new audience.
Yeah.
And I
hope they get a coach.
Yeah. I was encouraged, but it was the first thing I'd seen that I thought was kind of encouraging with the Yangry thing. I saw that actually at the St. Louis baseball store in a place as well. So okay, now we should take questions and then we can move on. Yes, my sister is pointing at the man in the back.
In the Molina jersey, yes.
Yes.
So I guess this is actually trying to follow up the conversation. I'm going to try and keep this short so we can get to the question. But, your whole conversation about sort of why feelings are different makes me think of a quote from The Office. I think the character Andy says something to the effect of, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you left them. So I'm 2 years younger than you. I've grown up here. I have now 3 kids who are various levels of Cardinals fans. Grew up very intent as a Cardinals fan through the Pools, Molina years. That I'm coming back. And I have a lot of friends who grew up and moved away, New York, LA, et cetera, who follow them intently. And we get very intense, even to a small degree now. And I think some of us realized towards the end of those quote unquote golden years that, we kind of got lucky of a stretch of 10, 15, 20 years of things that are not really reproducible. we bought into it, and the whole, not just community here, but the country bought into it. Going back to Peter Gammons, used to talk about, the aura around the Cardinals and the hashtag Cardinals Devils Magic, right? I mean, there's something that we built in, we bought into, I think the club bought into, and we fed into it, and they honestly feel like they reciprocated. They get the big trades. Players wanted to come here. And then 5 years ago, players didn't want to stop coming here. People actively avoided coming here. People chose not to come here because even they felt like that special feeling around our community, our team was gone. I think for those of us that sort of grew up with it, and you're probably similar, there's sort of a fan generational hangover. We remember what it was like not that long ago, because this isn't talking about the mutual days, the Gibson days. This was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, multiple World Series appearances. We're no longer special. The Cubs are the special one, and we're just sort of there. But also going back to the gentleman over there who talked about winning brings it back. I've got 3 kids, and I've not drilled into them the intensity that I have and still have. But every time I take them to the park, even though the youngest one who's 8 doesn't follow them, they get excited. They get into it, and they don't have that hangover that I have. And they know the players, even when I'm not talking about them, because they're kids and they love baseball. And I think a lot of us who went through some of this, I say a lot of us, I'm speaking for myself as a middle-aged dad. I don't feel the passion I used to, because I remember when I did have the passion, and now it doesn't feel as fun. And I've got to find a way to recapture it, but they're doing it on their own. So I don't think the Cardinals need to focus on me or you, right? They need to focus on just getting a team that's good again and forgetting some of the PR crap around us from the prior 20 years, pre-social media, because I think social media moves the hype along a lot faster than it did when we were great. It was easy to stay on us for 10, 15 years. Now we're yesterday's news no matter what's going on. So I think
That's great.
They need stars too, because getting back to first, you can't replicate having Molina from 2004 through 2022, or Pujols for 11 years, and then the final year. Wainwright for 20 years. I mean, just all these great players coming through, just kept up the winning and winning. The star power. They were great players. They were role players. You had a superstar manager, and they don't have the star power anymore. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to the guys on the team now. There's good players, but who's the real star? And you look at the Cubs. I mean, there are stars. You just look around. You look at Milwaukee, that big 6'9" monster or whatever, and that's a star. Churio's a star. Pittsburgh's even got a star, right?
Yeah, I can say a lot.
Star.
I can say all I want. Like, hey, come on, Victor Scott is how you build. Like that fans are gonna love a guy like that, but he's still not a star.
They got to replenish the star power. And I think they have some people. When Weatherholt gets here, Cardinals fans will love him, and one of the reasons they'll love him is, I've said this, and I want to keep saying it. He's got the whole Bryce Harper vibe. It's like he walks in and he's like, you know what, man, I'm great. I know it. Let's play. Come on. Like he's just.
I do think it's worth noting that, like, the 2 guys the Cardinals were hoping to get their starters, Walker, I actually still like and believe in both of them. They definitely do not carry themselves as people that I am awesome. And like, there are some, my longtime theory about Jordan Walker is he's literally just too smart. Like, Walker is a very, very smart guy, and you can see him thinking all of the time. And you just want to be like, dude, you're like Hugh, just go hit the ball. Just go. It's like don't think of. There's a great Manny Ramirez quote where someone asked him what his approach to hitting was. He's like, I approach the plates and I hit the ball. What do you mean? And I wonder if there's something to that. Because Jordan Walker to me, like, nothing in the world would make me like. I've had a Jordan Walker jersey since before he got called. Like, I love Jordan Walker, and so I want it so badly. And one of the reasons I love Jordan Walker is that he's also frankly interesting off the field as well, and like a super smart guy, and really, and like, I just want it so bad. But like, sometimes there's a reason that your favorite athletes are not the most thoughtful people in the world, and I wonder if there's something to that. Okay, I know we're going too long, so a couple questions before we. Yes, sir.
Are you ready for Illinois football this year?
I'm going to the Illinois Duke game. I'm going to Illinois Duke this year, so I've got Bielema fever. It was a line night last night, but then I went up to where you got the header. No, because Bielema was not there. I knew Underwood was going to be there because he was the draft. Because there were no Missouri players being drafted. There were 2 Illini. I'm sorry. But there was the Missouri band was here last night. Was at the game last night. I don't know why they were there. Just to troll the Illini. So the Bat was there and everything. Oh, the same night?
Oh, I didn't.
Missouri's making a big deal. Sold more tickets.
Well, I mean, you're closer. It's funny because you mentioned that I used to write for the Post-Dispatch. When I told the story before, but when I was in college, I was a stringer for the Post-Dispatch covering Illinois sports, and the stringer for the covering Missouri sports for the Post-Dispatch was some dude named Derek something, and I remember seeing his byline. And I was totally competitive. I was like, oh no, it's Derek Goohole. But like, I know I'm gonna have more bylines in the Post-Dispatch than that guy. And he did. Yes.
On the baseball law, Are We Winning, the book you wrote,
Yes.
which really introduced me to you.
Yeah.
Is there any way to get that back? That is something I recommend to people, and I have a copy. I have to say, here it is, but you need to give it back to me.
Now the reason it's out of print is because it was published by a company called Hyperion, which is now out of business. So that's why it's out of print. And also it didn't sell it, but more because of Hyperion. But it is that is, I think we're gonna have to. The best way I would say for that to get back into print is for us to sell billions of copies of Lloyd McNeil's. Right. And then they'll be like, oh, now we gotta put it back. We gotta backlog all this stuff. That young adult novel I wrote in 2005 from Penguin Razor, they come back into effect. But thank you. I love that book, and it sold so poorly I didn't write it for 12 years.
The only thing that tribute to Roach appearance in your like
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you for that. I've not actually. I've been traveling. I've not actually seen them since then, which is good because we're Midwesterners. We are not going to talk about that ever. So they'll just make my old fashioned strong.
I agree that Marmol has done a good job, but if the Cardinals was the playoffs, does Bloom get rid of him anyway?
It's a great question. It's a great question.
I think they have a good relationship. I think Bloom is more in deep already. They don't want to talk about it. They're not going to acknowledge it. I'm convinced. I've got good sources. He's stealth, and Mo knows it. It's not like he's going to be on anybody's back. He's formed a really good relationship with Marmol, which I think will help Marmol because I think Bloom sees him as someone who gets it. But he also knows, he's kind of he's going to get beat up.
I think Marmol has helped himself.
People that are willing enough to give him a chance. Yeah.
I'm not saying he's won over John Hamm, but like at a certain level, like I get the vibe. I used to hear people complain about Marmol constantly about everything.
Pretty tough one.
And I mean, he's a manager. He's there to get whacked, right? But like that, there was a vibe where it was like, this is never going to be the guy. We're Whitey, right? Like we're the Cardinals. Like it's always like this. That sort of thing is we think that like there's a tough guy, Whitey and La Russa and these alpha dog dudes and anyone that's not like that is going to be behind the 8 ball. Or also, by the way, I've been looking at Mike McNeil's book the entire time. I know he did a bit with you guys, and I think he did very well. So good for him. I'm glad. Good for him. Yeah. It's literally the best thing I could ever say about Mike McNeil. That is someone must have tricked him and not told him anything.
I'll go flip.
The thing about Marmol got the Cardinals job. Okay, the good news, hey, you're the new Cardinals manager. The bad news is John Mozeliak hired you, and you're viewed as his puppet, so they're going to hate you because they hate him so much. Number 2, that's right. It's the end of an era. Wainwright's out. Pujols left. Molina retired. Matt Carpenter.
But you're still here.
By the way, and this is the time where Bill DeWitt's going to downsize the payroll, right? And it's like, he inherited the situation that it was not the situation that Mike Matheny walked into, right? Or even Mike Schultz for that.
And they fired a manager that a lot of people liked. That's another vector.
So Holly had a lot working against him. He had to win over players, and he was a first-time major league manager. And I'm not the cheerleader of his fan club. I'm really not, but it's like he's really become a good manager. Yeah, you watch games, and I was watching it today. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, Palante, I think he just had like heat stroke.
Also, was Newbar
hurt in the game and it was okay?
Was Newbar hurt? Yeah. Okay. So I thought there were several moments that Newbar could have mentioned today. So I
You go with like Schumacher and some of those guys sitting there, you think for Heim it'll be.
Well, that's a tough thing. Yeah, I mean, and I was kind of pumped because, you know, the whole off season, I'm anticipating a lousy year. I was. And, you know, you got Poole saying, oh, I want to manage. And he wins the.
Yeah, honestly, wait till the World Baseball Classic next year. Let's not
And,
forget,
you know,
Poole is
believe it,
managing the big
I think both of those guys and Skip would be great managers. So the thing that I don't understand, if the Cardinals collapse, right? And if they want to get fans back to the park, you know, one thing they could do would be to hire, you know, whatever, you know, Pools or Molina or Schumacher. But they also happen to be like really smart baseball people. But they also give you, they're a PR bonanza too. So I don't know whether they would throw Ollie over the side, even though he's doing a good job, just because they want to make, you know, this big,
Here's my theory. My theory on this is that, you know, because literally the World Baseball Classic is happening before next season. Molina's managed the Puerto Rican team. Albert's managed the Dominican team. I'm just saying Marmol is totally rooting for America. He is totally rooting for the United States. So, and you know what? Somebody has to.
So even in you talk about being tough.
Yeah.
You got these two Cooperstown future legends and two of the greatest Cardinals players ever. And they're just like,
We're going to manage the team. We're going to manage the team.
we want to manage it.
It's my opinion that Pools would be better managing, if just because he would show up. That's just
Yeah, so anyway, what you're
Anyone
doing,
more?
Gas House game. Oh, over here.
no, after you.
All right, Gas House game
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Ollie's brilliant. I mean, it's up by respect for Ollie. Just facing questions that are asked respectfully.
Yeah.
Not by idiot fans I'm talking about, but respectfully, and him, you know, discussing reasons why he, you know, there are reasons by those decisions. And okay, that makes sense. I get it. So I appreciate that.
And he wants us to just bring it on. Again, I'm never gonna just talk to him like he's some dog. I mean, that's what I think that present company accepted. You know, there's too many people because social media, they think that you're
Accountability.
You know,
Accountability.
question is basically like I was covering the Olympics with this big water polo rivalry. I don't know, it was Greece and Turkey. I don't know what it was. But the one team got blown out. And the first question in the Atlanta Olympics, when we just happened to be there in the work center, the first question to the losing coach was, you have disgraced your nation. Your thoughts?
Honestly, not the worst question. Just saying, sitting out to the press car. Not the worst question.
You know, it's like, Ollie, you know, you stupid SOB. What are you? Have you lost your brains? You know, people think unless you're doing that, that media is soft. You know, no.
They want you to punch them.
Yeah.
Like they want you.
So I think, you know, if Bloom decides to make a change at manager, it's unclear that he.
I don't know.
You gotta put. Yeah, I would expect that Ollie would get a position in the development organization.
I think you would.
You know, because I think he's really smart.
That's what
and
he
he's
wanted
really
to do.
good, and he knows how to develop players.
That was like his goal at one point. He
Right.
wanted to be like the director of player development, running, coordinating.
I'll confess, I never thought Schilt would get another job. And then I thought he was a very Cardinals guy, and I was wrong. And I think he's actually done a pretty good job. Okay, what's the question back?
Two things. I'll be real quick.
One,
One,
we're only bothering them.
if the Cardinals are smart and they wanted people to come back, even if they won the World Series, they should still fire Marmol and then just hire out the Pujols. Unfortunately,
I
feel bad for
I
that,
know where you're
but-
coming from. I mean, I like Ollie, but I get it. I mean, this is more than just about baseball. You know, it really is.
And then,
And it's kind of unfair to him.
mhm.
You know, like, he might have someone that we don't even know about that he thinks will be the ideal manager. When his first move is like bring in some no-name guy, it's like, what?
I'll confess though, like it will make me wonder how much autonomy Bloom really has if he hires Pujols to be his manager. I would put it that way. I mean, not to say that Pujols would be a bad manager. I think he'd be a fine manager. But like, you know, what's that Onion headline? Like, a miracle of birth happens for 40 trillionth time. Like, oh, what an amazing coincidence. He scooped the entire planet for the best possible manager. and picked Albert Pujols
You know,
to manage the Cardinals.
one of the reasons why I think Pujols would be the better manager is because Pujols spent all that time, what it seemed like a lot of time, with the Dodgers. And you ask Tommy Edman, you ask David Freese, and you ask Justin, and they're like, these people are unbelievable. Like, they're giving me this stuff, and they're saying, look, if you just do this, just give it a chance, work with us. You know, they have this incredible analytics department, and it's like the players buy in because they see the results. Pujols all of a sudden became a good hitter again, and you know who his coach was at Elton? Brad Brown. Pujols wants information. He would want Chaim Bloom to bring him things.
I don't think Yanni would do that.
Because Pujols, because of the Dodgers, saw the value in that. Molina's kind of like, oh, I know more than all these people, you know.
Also, anyone that's in my Instagram page knows that Albert Pujols wants you to buy their This is, by the way, I joked about this, but like, this is how like celebrities accidentally pose with Nazis. Because like, literally, he doesn't know what my book's about. He just came off the stage, just like, sure, buddy, whatever. And like, I'm like, Albert Pujols said buy the book. Okay, so I know you're probably ready for us to
We do one more question.
one more question. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, who's gonna be in the rotation next?
Ooh, I like this question.
Livitor, Gray will still be here.
I think McGreevy's probably in the
I
next
think
one.
McGreevy's got a great shot. I think Quinn Matthews could be ready. I think Takoa Rogie might get a chance. I'm not saying definitely. I think Tinkhan's, God bless him, but you know the man like pitches 30 innings a year.
He feels like he's just going to be a reliever.
You know, no, I think they've got a pretty. And there, you know, there's a couple of guys even down lower that I don't even know who they are, but I'm talking to a couple scouts. This guy Henderson, yeah, they're really crazy about him too. And Bloom and Cerfolio are going to totally revamp the way they develop pitchers. I'm really looking forward to that. But did we leave anybody out?
Duram, I forgot about Duram.
Yeah.
I would say too that like I was just watching the game today after watching Fenty yesterday, but like watching the game today, like it's funny because Palante he did enough, he got in there, but like it's funny that stat which is totally off. What's the stat called on Fangraphs? The location plus. Like I'm paying attention to this, but like I would like it if the only way the Cardinals pitchers survived was not just hitting the exact spots. Cardinals have 3 dudes that have to be perfect. And if they make one mistake, or if they have a bad day like Fenty, they're doomed. But the Cardinals, even Palante, with all that he's done this year, has walked more guys than struck out. That is not a path to success.
You don't have that guy. That's gonna be the 5th pick in the draft this year.
Yeah, maybe.
They'll take another middle infield.
Yeah. They might. Yeah. But I do think like that's like that to me is the idea of like right like there's no more whatever I'm coming around Mike let's see notice the damn hat. I'm getting around, I'm okay. I am not blinded by that to not appreciate a veteran dude scrapping together to be able to keep his career going in a way that that's every baseball fan likes watching that guy who's lost his stuff but is still trying to figure it out. I will always kind of admire that despite
He's been better than I thought.
Yeah, but like him, Palante, and Fenty, they're all just like they gotta be perfect. It'd be awesome to just like have guys that like I don't know they got Yao because they throw 98. Like it would be kind of nice to have some of them. Yeah, Liberatore good, and Grace still strikes guys out. He doesn't go as hard as he still strikes guys out. So it's just like I feel like like we talk about like the frustrations of last year having to bring all the veteran pitchers. That to me is we talk about the Cardinals things that have changed. The thing that's really changed, they're just no longer they're not developing pitching. Like I think they're about to, and they're coming back. But that's what in the last 5 years, and part of that I think was COVID. I think COVID was part of that too. But like they don't develop young dudes that throw really hard.
That's going to change now. Those guys won't be here next year or the year after. It's going to take a couple years.
Yeah, and then they'll pitch for like all pitchers. They'll pitch for a year and a half and get their second of the 8 Tommy John surgeries and crash out their careers before anyone has to take it.
See, that's one benefit when you're on a strikeout staff.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
They stay healthy. The Cardinal rotation's been the healthiest in baseball.
It's incredible.
You
For
know?
better or worse. Okay, we do have one last question, but only because she's my sister.
I just have to ask, any chance that we could possibly or Ryan Helsley?
Oh yeah, sorry, my sister really likes him. I think probably. Get used to. Get used to. I don't know how long Devin Williams has signed for the Yankees, but I feel I would expect him to be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like,
Unless it's a 1-year deal, I think he's a risky business.
Yeah.
You know.
I think if he finishes this year the way he's done it, he'll get a multi-year contract, but it won't be. I don't think it will be. It would be something. The good news is he looks just as good in other things.
I still don't understand. It goes 100. That fastball is just it gets killed now, and it's not like he went from 100 to 95. It's like it's flat. It just comes in flat.
I've only noticed it the last couple games that he's been pitching like that. The last couple games. But.
And the slider's great. He should throw the curveball more.
I think one last thing about Ryan Helsley. Again, probably the last person. But like, do you remember that like he almost ended the chop?
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing about Ryan Helsley. That's not my favorite thing. But Ryan Helsley almost ended the chop. It feels like an entirely different generation, isn't it? That happened. That like the Braves stopped doing the chop because Derek Gould did an interview with Ryan Helsley, and he said, I think he's Cherokee, because I'm not sure which part. And he said, yeah, it's kind of shitty, and you guys shouldn't do that. And they literally stopped doing it the next game, and then the world continued to progress in a positive direction. Okay, so I'm sorry I did that. But thank you all for coming. Do we have? Oh, should I sign, or we just do it right here?
Yeah, so if you don't have your book yet, grab it at the front desk, and then we're gonna have our signing back in the corner here in our like psych section if you're familiar with the store. So thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you, and thanks again. This bookstore is amazing. And